Hey guys, it's Pew Pew here with yet another Hellgate video. We've been putting a lot of time into Hellgates lately on my stream because Hellgates is one of the easiest way to make money in this game. In 2v2 Hellgates especially, the matches are usually very short, and when you get the chest at the end, there's a chance that you can get some really good stuff from it. And even if your RNG is not that great, as long as you keep getting the Tome of Insights from the chest at the end, you can make some pretty good silver per hour from doing 2v2 Hellgates. But a lot of people are under the impression that they cannot do Hellgates because they don't have good specs or good gear. It's true that in some of my previous videos, I've stated that the benchmark for IP for any kind of PvP should be around 1100. If you can't hit that benchmark, you'll probably lose a lot. However, you don't actually have to win every Hellgate to make a profit. In my past couple of streams, we had a what people call it a zero to hero session. Basically, you start out with really low tier gear, and you go into Hellgates, and you can only upgrade your gear when you loot it off of someone or out of a chest. You don't buy high tier gear. So we did this with a 4.1 bow build and a 4.1 holy build, and we made like a 6 mil-ish profit each night. Now, we were not having anywhere close to 100% win rate. We probably lost like about half of our Hellgates, but we still made a huge profit because our builds are so cheap. The 4.1 bow build set is only like 35k, I think, per set, which is roughly how much one Tome of Insight costs. So if you can win one gate, you open a chest and it gives you like three to five Tome of Insights, then you're covered for another 3 to 5 deaths. And the rest of the chest is just pure profit. The bow build that I was using was a regular bow, a clerical, and a hunter hood swap, mage robe, and knight boots. And since we're trying to go cheap, we did not bring capes. My healer's build is actually nearly identical to mine. The only difference is instead of running the regular bow, he has a one-hand holy staff and a tome of spells offhand. And then instead of the hunter hood, he has a scholar cal swap. Now, if you're trying to run this holy plus DPS comp in a more try-hard manner, shall I say, then you're supposed to run this comp with a whole lot of swaps on you to counter every situation that you can run into in a Hellgate. So, for example, all those 8.1 holy DPS teams that you see, they're probably running with a fin cal on them to counter regular bows. They're probably running with a mercenary hood on them to counter quarterstaffs, and they probably have some double blade staffs on them to chase down rats. But since we're trying to be budget friendly, we didn't bring all those different swaps. We just have a clerical to deal with one-shot comps, and we have a hunter hood slash scholar cal to fight other DPS plus healer teams. The point of this is not really to win every single Hellgate anyway. The point of this is just to show people that even if you lose a whole bunch of Hellgates, you will still make a huge profit at the end as long as you stick to running cheap gear. Now, that said, if the gear you're running is too cheap or if it's something that just doesn't really make sense, then you probably won't really make a profit because you just die a lot. Yeah, and speaking of which, sometimes I see people in Hellgates running stuff like a flat 4 great axe, and it's just like a solo guy with a flat 4 great axe. I don't know what they're doing there. Like, if you're one of those people that's doing this, you should probably stop. Because, like, you're really just wasting money. Like, I think maybe you're there to fame farm, to try and fame farm, but it doesn't work, If you take that flat 4 great axe build into a solo dungeon, you'll probably get more fame from doing that than just dying to people over and over again in Hellgates. I think the best way to make profit with cheap builds in Hellgates right now is to run a one hand holy, well, a holy staff of some sort, either one hand holy or a life touch. That would be my preference. But anyway, you run one of those two healing staffs, and then you run a really high DPS weapon like a regular bow or a one hand curse. Holy healers are just like really OP in 2v2 Hellgates right now, especially the life touch staff. If you want to beat a life touch team and you're not playing life touch, you gotta have like either a lot more gear or a lot more IQ than the other team. And that's mostly because of flash shield, like healing for way too much, and the life touch E being able to cleanse out of CCs. So it's really hard for you to set up a one shot when you can just cleanse right out of it and then start spamming flash shield to like out heal all your damage. Now, because we are trying to be budget friendly or as budget friendly as possible, we decided to go with the one hand holy instead of the life touch, just because it's cheaper. But if you don't mind spending just a little more silver on it, then it's actually like way better to run a life touch instead of the one hand holy. When you play this comp or when you play any healer comp, it's important that you remember to go into the Hellgate with your safe set on. So go in with your Clerical, your Frost Shot, and your regular run. After you check out the other team and you make sure they're not running some kind of a one-shot comp, then you back off and you adjust your build for a longer fight. So in this clip right here, you actually see us dying because I forgot to do that. I went into the Hellgate with Clerical, but no Frost Shot and no regular run. So after I fought them for a little bit, my healer said, we're gonna run out of mana like this. So we tried to back off, but we didn't have regular run, we didn't have Frost Shot. So we just got chased down and we died. Now, some of you might be wondering about the Clerical. Like Yuno said in my last video, the Mercenary Hood is actually better against quarterstaffs than the Clerical. So why do you use a Clerical, right? And that's because in Hellgates, you're not just gonna be running against quarterstaffs all the time. There's other one-shot comps that you have to worry about. So for example, just one example, Blackhand and Crossbow, for example, right? That's a one-shot comp still, and Merca doesn't really do anything against that comp. Like, you can try to cleanse the Blackhand E, but you might still get punched away, and even if you don't get punched away, you just get fear right afterwards. So if you run into one of those builds where it's still a one-shot build, but they don't really rely on making you stand still to take damage, then you're still gonna take all the damage even if you run a Merc Hood, and you'll probably still end up dying, right? So the Clerical protects you against more than just the quarterstaffs. Like, yeah, it's not as good. It's not as good as the Merc Hood against quarterstaffs, but it works good enough that you might be able to survive one burst, and after that, like, you have a chance to engage. And like, this is a 4.1 set anyway, so if you lose to a one-shot comp with this, it's no big deal. You can just regear and go again. But a lot of times, like, that Merc Hood, that Clerical is really all you need to win a fight. Like, say on screen right now, you actually see us fighting against a quarterstaff and a blazing, and this is outside of Hellgates, so they have a lot more gear advantage on us. We're running 4.1s with like 800 IP on the healer, and I think no, my healer was actually lower. So it was like less than, it was like 790 IP on the healer, and I was like 850 or something like that. And these guys are all over 1,000 IP. They're running 6 and 7 equivalents, and we still end up winning this fight anyway, even though it's a Clerical and no more good. Now, these players that we just played against, like, given that they're probably not the most experienced players, because if you're playing Blazing against Healer, or at least Blazing against Clerical, you should have Fire Artillery on, and they didn't. Now, if they had Fire Artillery on, we probably would have died, because the Fire Artillery can stack on you even when you're in Clerical, and they'll not do damage to you while you're Clerical, but when you come out of Clerical, you have 4 stacks of fire on you, and it's going to be a lot of pressure for your healer to out-heal that. But, again, not every quarterstaff comp has a blazing in it, and not every blazing even knows how to play blazing. They may be playing blazing without fire artillery. And if you were to run into any other situation, like any situation where there's no fire artillery, the clerical is plenty enough to keep you alive. And at the end of the day, keep in mind that we are running 4.1, so we are saving money by not bringing every single set with us, every single swap with us, right? So that's the important part here. We just have one swap to counter most builds in the Hellgate, and there's that one situation where lose. Oh well, if we do run into that situation, we lose like maybe 35k on the set. We can just go back and re-gear and go again. And that said, like you definitely will lose a few times with this build. You probably lose like maybe even 50% of the times with this build if you're not experienced and not spec and you're running into other teams that just have better gear than you, or you're running into teams that have a blazing. Then you probably will die, but it's okay if you die, because you were running really cheap stuff and you can just re-gear for 35k and then go back in. And the point of this is to make money. So if you do win like one Hellgate and you get 3 books out of it, 3 times of insights out of it, that's 3 sets of gear for you, right? And then the rest of the chest will be just pure profit for you. So if you're trying to get into Hellgates and you're worried that you don't have enough specs for it, then this is a good way for you to just grab some cheap gear and go at it. And it's also going to be really good practice for you because if you're running cheap gear and you have low specs, you'll be going in at a pretty big disadvantage, right? So you'll be learning to like actually play correctly and not just relying on gear to carry you. So if you're really interested in doing some Hellgates right now, but you just don't have the specs or the kind of silver to buy a whole lot of good gear, then I do encourage you to try this method, and you'll probably make some good profit at the end as long as you have, let's say, a mil or two in your bank and you can afford to lose that 35k set a couple of times without worrying about it. Then I do think this is a good way for you to get into Hellgates without any like prerequisites and just try to make a little money. Alright, so that's all I got to say for this video. I hope you found it helpful. And as always, please remember to like and sub. And if you haven't done so already, I do stream now every day from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern United States time. So come hang out with us on Twitch if you get the chance.